Coming on.
7, 6, 5,
There we go.
4, 3, 2,
No, still.
1, and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
All right, here we go. We are on. Took a bit of time to get us going here, but the system wanted to connect, and it took a little bit of time, but here we are, guys. It's 8 p.m. It's a little after that, but 8 p.m. Eastern. It's 5 p.m. Pacific. It's 7 p.m. Canals on time. Here we are. Happy out at the Balboa Yacht Club. Ricky, what's going on, man? Happy Friday.
Hey, hello, everybody. Got Willie. The intro came in perfect. I'm really happy. Right on. I've been giving Willie a hard time the last 3 weeks, but that was absolutely perfect, guys. Welcome to our happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. Come on into our bar and enjoy this happy hour and this live podcast that we bring you every Friday night. Guys, it's a podcast all about the Canal Zone. It's history, it's towns, it's people, it's social life, everything you want to know about the Canal Zone and the Canal Zone community. This is the spot for you. Like we like to say, it's a place where Willie and I bring the Canal Zone right into your living rooms and a place where everybody knows your name. So let's get our drinks ready. Tonight's going to be a great show. I'm not going to lie to you, Willie. Tonight, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So let's toast to the eighth wonder of the world.
Yes, indeed. Salute,
home
guys.
of the Mango Heads. Salute.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. We're going to do a Panama Canal review show. The Panama Canal review, as you guys recall, was that iconic magazine. Initially, it was a monthly magazine way back in the day, and then they started making it like quarterly. You know,
it was like the elite magazine. They had the better stories, the better
it was
pictures.
40, 50 pages and stuff. Exactly, and it was, you know. And then, but one of the things I noticed, because I've been researching a lot of those magazines, looking them up and whatnot. And one thing that I found interesting was, somewhere about the mid to late 60s, going into the 70s, maybe the coverage started changing, right? Whereas from 1950, when it first came out, until the late 60s, it was very much nostalgia of the Canal Zone. It was very much history of the Canal Zone. In some of these, as we're going to see later on here, they award people that were, part of the canal construction in some of those eras, because you think, in 1950, you had somebody that have been 30, 40 years in the zone. Man, they were around when that thing first opened, So, but in the 60s or 70s, it really started to change to become more, I don't even know what the term is, maybe cosmopolitan or something, but you started getting stories of overseas places you could go visit, Costa Rica, South America, and it kind of lost that same feel or nostalgia that you had, in the prior issues, which at the time, maybe it made sense to them. But, looking at it now, as you're looking through the history and going, hey, man, this is the old Canal Zone, and reminiscing, you really do notice a change in the storylines. And so what we're going to do on ours, for the most part, is focus on those earlier issues, because it's more historic Canal Zone. Which
like
is
1943 or something like that?
Well, I mean, like, for example, some of the articles that we're going to reference here are from 1954.
1954, yeah.
But if you think somebody that's there, and like I said, we're going to show you here where somebody that had been in service in the zone now for 40 years.
But you know what happened in 1943, though, in the Canal Zone, Willie? We
Quite
went from left-hand driving to right-hand driving.
Yes.
And believe it or not, there wasn't any major incidents for the stuff that I researched. So
Well, and you want to, and to that point, that whole interchange of driving direction and driving, on the right-hand versus left-hand side of the road, interestingly enough, the Canal Zone government put in a rule that said the day that Panama changes their driving direction, we change ours. So there was never any confusion. All of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, you
on
cross,
one side,
you cross Frangipani, and next thing you know, you're on the wrong side of traffic. So that was interesting. That was. But
really the way it was so seamless, how they did it was really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what else happened today in history, Willie? There was this guy named Jawed Karim. Why Jawed Karim? You know why, Willie? He was the first guy to upload a video to YouTube. So today's that day.
Look at that.
Celebrating that. And us, let's toast to this, we're celebrating our 112th show, Willie.
Right on. How about that?
Right on,
112.
man. How about that?
Do you know that YouTube initially was set up as a dating app? And they put it on there, and what they expected is people would say, "Hey, for free, upload your video from your phone, and you
Yeah,
can."
yeah,
And, and
because
and all of a sudden, they just got wave after wave of people that were just putting on silly videos. They weren't even dating, and what they realized is that nobody was using it for dating, and so they
yeah,
completely changed the whole formula and made it, what it is today, a place where just, I mean, it's
where we
synonymous with
bring the
viewing.
Canal Zone to your living
Yeah, for
room.
sure, man. Yeah, no kidding, man. No
Right
kidding.
on.
Yeah. So,
Well,
but
something else happened today as well. The
yeah.
the telescope, the what do you call the Hubble telescope, was also launched
Mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Yes,
that's
it
a big
was.
thing in history. A
Yeah.
great day, August 24th. The NFL draft is happening,
Yeah. And
and
that's
here
why
we
that's
are.
why there's a bit of a distraction there. In fact, Ricky and I have been pondering doing something, we're looking for somebody that is an avid sports fan that really likes to root for their sports teams up in the Green Bay, Wisconsin area. Okay. And so if you're that person and you'd be interested in maybe trying to do something with the podcast with myself and Ricky, let us know, because we're maybe it's just something we were kind of throwing out an idea of being silly the other day,
Yeah, we want to do something for football
but it would
season.
be fun for football, Green
Yeah,
Bay, Tampa Bay, San Francisco Bay, so kind of a battle of the bays thing there that we could have
and
with,
the Panama Bay and the Atlantic
yeah,
Bay. Yeah.
so who knows? But if you are that
But
person,
yeah,
let us know.
we
It might be
yeah
fun.
we want to get you guys involved during football season. Which, speaking of which, football season right now is happening in Panama. Varsity and heavyweights
All right.
are
Well,
the
let's
and
get going talking about all that stuff, but let's of
yeah,
course get our
comments.
K Pasa going stuff, and get some
Say hi to some people.
cool announcements. Yeah, and say hi to some cool people, and then Ricky's got some interesting Panama stuff to talk about, and then we'll get into our review here. So let's
SCN Television presents K Pasa. And now here's this evening's host, Army Sergeant Bob Foster.
Good evening and welcome to K Plaza. We've got two guests tonight. First Sergeant First Class Jim Webb. Sergeant Webb's with the 227th Military Police Detachment.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, K Pasa, and again, we're just doing some community announcements, a couple of things here for the Zonian community. Although the show is viewed by more than just Zonians, so that's, we when we first started, it was almost 100% pure Zonians watching, and so we kept it very localized. But as we've come to find out, we have people watching from Japan, from we might have some people watching from New Zealand right now. It's Saturday morning over there, and some Zonians actually
Indonesia.
that are vacationing there, perhaps.
They
But
get
yeah,
up
we have
early
people in
enough.
Indonesia. We've had people calling from where was it, Lithuania? Carrie Leggett called from Lithuania. That was really cool. But anyhow, quick announcements. Remember, guys, May 29th, we're about a month away from that. That's the deadline to register for the Panama Canal Society reunion in Orlando, which is the 11th of July. So make sure that you register by that date. Otherwise, you can't guarantee that you'll get that room and at that rate. It's a great hotel. It's a great location. It's kind of pricey, but they negotiate a really good price there, guys. So make sure that you register for the society. You have to be a member, of course. But as we keep telling you, $60 a year, man, it's a bargain for what you get, and you'll get that back in reunion discounts alone. So
25%.
yeah, but there's gonna be a lot of cool events there. Don't forget the golf tournament. They're always looking for more golfers if you're interested in golfing. It's a nice resort. They have a nice golf course. If you need clubs, they have rental clubs there, so don't worry about that.
Oh, that's cool. I
you
didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, don't think that you might have to travel across the country with golf clubs just for one golf outing. But it is a good time. It's a great zoning golf outing. Golf was always a big zoning tradition. So make sure you check that out. We had Paul Shamella join us a couple of weeks ago talking about special forces in Panama, and he arrived literally right after Just Cause. I mean, just a few days after, and took over naval special warfare down there, and really helped do a lot of things down there, and kind of reestablish the Panama's naval military assets, and provide security and all those things. He also wrote a book, part of a trilogy of books. He's going to be at the reunion on Friday, giving a talk on Friday afternoon. It starts at about 11:45. So if you have his book, take it there. He'll sign it for you. If not, he said he's going to take books to sell down there as well. So make sure you check him out and let him know that you saw him on our show, because he had a really cool story. It was that was a lot of interesting things that he could tell us, right? And like he prefaced before that, he goes, a lot of things I can't talk about, so.
Yeah, I was surprised with the San Carlos story that they,
Yeah.
Special Forces went in there to secure one of, I guess it was one of Noriega or one of his top henchmen's house. And then everybody in San Carlos welcomed them like heroes. So that
Right.
was pretty cool.
It was.
The Royals, everybody went to Coronado. The Royals went to San Carlos. So I've been going to San Carlos since I was a child.
Right.
And we actually have a piece of property there. And then to hear that, I'm like, wow, right on, San Carlos, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember San Carlos. There was a little town. It had
Yes.
it even had a hospital. It had a nice church. So San Carlos was kind of nice.
San
It
Carlos
wasn't
was kind of one
Coronado.
No, it wasn't Coronado, but it was another area that you could go to if you were out surfing on the weekend. In a lot of those surf
Palmar.
areas, San Carlos was right in the middle of that, and so it's a place where you can go to get something to eat and maybe buy something if you needed some medicine or whatever else.
They had the famous Puke and Choke Chinese restaurant right there next to the
Greasy Spoon, man.
My age group called the Puke and Choke. First you puke, then you choke. But it was the best Chinese food, and coconut water. And then we had the bakery, if you remember, for the pan de micha and pan de dulce. Oh my God, for those two were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then my dad was into the Lions Club. That's why we were there from a long time ago.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, my dad passed away there in San Carlos. So
Oh,
a lot
really?
of love there in that little town. But to
Yeah,
know that they were
certainly.
welcomed the way they were, that was good. I like to hear that.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't know that that's where your dad would passed away. Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. So, but yeah, so that's that's what part of what the stories that are going to be told at the reunion. And don't forget again that he'll be joining us. Not sure why here they are now. The chats all of a sudden came up. They weren't showing before. But let's say hello to a couple of folks here and then move right along because Ricky's got a couple of good stories.
No, we got time. I'm like this because Willie and I had been battling technical issues for about an hour. Right into opening, man. We were just
I
praying
rebooted my
everything was gonna
system 8 minutes before the show just in case, and even the start. If you notice, we came on about a minute and a half, 2 minutes late, but right at 7:59, I hit launch, and that thing was spinning and spinning and spinning, and we're like, oh no. A minute later, oh boy, here we go. And
here. So far so good. But let's see if it hangs.
good.
Then again, Willie, we are on at the busiest time of the week. At least
true.
in San Francisco, we are.
No, that's
5
true.
PM
You're very
on a
it is
Friday.
Friday night, and you're absolutely right. It is a busy evening for streaming. And heck, right now, like you said, the NFL draft is on. So streaming and podcasting is exploding in all versions. And this is probably one of the biggest nights for football is here because I've seen people that do, for example, these watch alongs, right? There's streams that are, during a game. And I'm not sure how many people actually do those things and try and watch a game while they're sitting on their phone watching a podcast. It's kind of hard to follow both of them. But this type of thing, like a draft, it's broadcast live like a game, but it's very much situational and it's nothing but conversation and talk, right? There's not action and play by play. So you're right, dude. I bet right now there's a ton of streams going on. And so they're just jam-packed everywhere.
We're hanging in there, man.
We got our spot.
Everything's so good so far.
It is, so.
Well, we got more, mostly reunion updates, guys. Like me, I always like to talk about the Saturday night because I'm really pushing for that to be the big night like it was in the past. Yep. Now, remember, it has got several things going on. You can just go to the dance, which is totally fine, and you're going to really enjoy that. That's what's from 9 p.m. on. But if you want to do the whole night, starting at 6, from 6 to 7, there's going to be a happy hour. Now, remember, it's everybody's semi-formally dressed. It's not really just, no flip-flops, shorts, that kind of stuff.
They want to dress up. They
just
want to class
look
it up.
good, look good. Like prom night. Think of it as prom night.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so 6 to 7 happy hour. A lot of us are going to be there. I know the whole class of 81 has their own section. So hopefully the whole class will be there. Then dinner will be served with by the way, every table gets a bottle of wine. Dinner will be served between 7 and 8 p.m. And then between 8 and 9, as you're doing dessert and finishing off your wine, they're going to do a little show of polleras. And then if you remember, the murga is also going to be happening. So
very cool.
It's a big, huge activity. And then that leads right into the reunion ball. So, of course, there'll be a lot of dancing and a lot of It's gonna be phenomenal, guys. So
Every time I hear the word
please
Murga now, I always think of our birthday song. We used to do the birthdays. So always had
the
that,
verse, yeah. Oh yeah.
the
So
Murga song.
the last but not least, the menu, guys. Summit Garden salad. Listen to these dishes. Sosa Hill Ropa Vieja. You gotta roll your R's on that one. Rainforest Ropa Vieja for those that the bellies can't handle that meat, and of course the Gold Coast salmon.
There you go.
And it's going to be a good evening. That's
Sure.
the Saturday night. Now, of course, there's stuff happening Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Sunday night even. Or Sunday day.
Nice. Yeah,
Even
Sunday day.
'cause
Yeah, Sunday's
at night,
about noon. Everything's pretty much over. It's wrapped up
pretty
now.
much over. Yeah. They have
You
the
know.
despedida where they have the raffle. So
Yep.
don't forget that. But
Must
Friday
be there.
night, a lot of activity. For me, it's my class reunion. So class of 81 guys. We're going to be meeting at the suite. I'll get the number of the suite pretty soon here. And don't forget, too, class of 81. We got the pool cabana at Saturday at the pool.
You know what? We
And-
should see if we can't get class of 81 on, like the first week in June.
We
or
are.
second week in June.
I'm gonna hit them up this week for that.
Good.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of a little birthdays. I know that I keep throwing in my class of 81 birthdays, but we've got some good people, to say happy birthday to that. Like to mention, like Mel Carlin, big name in the Canal Zone. She's got a big birthday on the 30th. Anita Urbach, another big Canal Zone name. Happy birthday. Steve Thompson. Kathleen Morgan, very special Zonian. She funds a lot of she's an angel investor. And she helps a lot of growing companies. So thank you, Kathleen, for that. Sharing the wealth the way you do. Mark Hirota on the 20th. Happy birthday. Tony Fowler. He was actually from here, from Alameda. Happy birthday, Tony. And Rich Farley. Those are my 81 birthday boys and girls. And class of 81, we will be seeing you at the reunion.
I almost feel bad that we don't have the birthday Murga. I don't have it loaded. Otherwise, I'd play it right now. And by the way, happy
I
birthday
slip
to
in those
Steve
in.
Winberg. He's also celebrating a birthday actually today or yesterday. So happy birthday to you and everyone else. Maybe we will bring that back. It was always fun.
Yeah,
to do
we
the
try,
birthday.
but
No,
God, we're
but,
the shows are
We're trying to tighten the
hour and a half to
time
2
frame.
hours.
Yeah,
We never do hour and a half. Our shows are 2 hours no matter what. So we're really trying to get to 1.5 hours, but we appreciate it. Our numbers still look good. Last week, the same numbers. So thank you for all you guys watching us. Yeah.
Yep.
Right,
We'll say hi to a couple of folks here, and then
Say
we'll
hi, yeah.
and then get some of Ricky's bochinche going here. But
We got great news.
yep.
Great news. Not
Good to
gonna
see you,
lie.
Mark. Happy Friday to you. Mark
Hey,
is
Mark.
gonna is going to. I'm getting trying to set up a. The videos that I do, like the Howler Monkey videos and stuff like that. I've created a video creator platform for people that want to do this but don't have any experience, any background on it. It'll teach you how to do all those things, including music videos. And Mark, with his prowess at putting together tunes, is going to test it for me as somebody that's green at the video development end of it, and see if it helps him to develop a nice music video. So I appreciate you testing that for me. So if anybody else is out there that's interested in doing something with video, and you want to be a test monkey for me, I really appreciate it, because I'm trying to get this thing launched, and it's pretty comprehensive. I mean, you learn a lot of stuff about how to use AI to create compelling videos and whatnot. So, but anyway, let's say hi to a couple other folks here. Richard Barker in Fort Myers, not right on. Richard, if you don't are friends with Richard Barker on Facebook, this guy has a treasure trove of pictures. This guy travels around Panama all the time, taking pictures of the zone. And if not, he'll post pictures from previously in the zone back in the day. But he definitely throws out some really cool pics.
Yeah, he's
out
my
there. So,
age.
yeah.
He's
Richard's
class
a
of
good guy.
82.
He was one of the Albrook Jets
A
guys.
general, I think he is.
Yeah, he's whatever he does, he certainly gets around, and he keeps us.
No, I think he was a general. That's the right guy. Yeah, I think he
We'll
was
have to
either
find
lieutenant colonel or a general. One of
We'll
those.
throw it
Hello,
out there,
Richard,
champion.
man. I know I played football with you.
Salute, man.
And I was going to do a thing on Wednesday night at the pool, but I didn't get my notes on time. So next week, And I know Richard Barker was involved with a lot of those games.
Yeah, he played for the Jets, and then I think he played for Red Machine because he was still
Yeah. He hung out in Balboa. He was one of the Balboa boys.
Yes, he definitely was. Need to talk to Rick Dahl. Lives an hour from Lambeau. Okay, he loves Packers. Okay, maybe we'll give him a shout there, and find out what's going on. Greetings from Georgia. Greetings, Eric. Good to see you, brother. Happy Friday to you. Yep, good to see you. As usual, it's always enjoy your presence out there. Eric's always very gracious and buys us some beers. If you want to help out, guys, you can always help out the show. Up at the top right there, that QR code. Scan that with your phone, and you can buy us a couple of cold beers. That was always much appreciated. Steve, good to see you. Steve, I apologize. You called me when I was trying to do a sound check, and we've been glitching all day, so it took me longer than I should have to get done. But I will definitely give you a ring tomorrow morning. Promise you. Looking forward to the show. Yeah. That Navy SEAL show was really, really cool. That was a lot of fun. And it was interesting because a lot of it had some interesting parallels to, what Steve and Jesus have done, with their book.
Which is what I was thinking, bringing all those guys on at the same time. Talk about
they wrote a book, Final Flight, Queen of the Sky, which is all about drug smuggling and a crazy loophole in the FAA that allowed you to.
That guy yawn.
Right. Well, talking about Steve's book, where you could literally take a plane and land in the jungle, and before you unloaded and took off, you already had that thing re-registered. They had already painted over that number and put a new one on. And if you looked it up in the database, it was registered already to somebody else. It was incredible.
It was like $35 for that.
It was unbelievable, and it was all done in a town that didn't even have an airport.
Burrito stands.
Yeah. There you go, burrito stands. So, but yeah, that's a good point, Ricky. That we should bring some of these guys on. Michael Yawn's another one.
Michael Yawn, the man of all those guys at the same time. Holy cow, man! What those guys know.
Iran, Michael Yawn would be great to have on because
what those guys know. Yeah. Oh, particularly Iran. Let's get into.
Remember, Michael Yawn was, this guy was a war correspondent for years, so he's connected to a lot of those. He's been in a lot of those zones in the Middle East and stuff. So he would certainly.
And remember, he went right from the Darien jungle onto Andy's boat and onto our show.
Yes,
to talk about the Darien Gap.
Yeah, before he went on to Alex Jones' show, he came onto our show. That was a kind of very. Captain Andrew definitely got us a coup on that one. That was well done. Him and Matt Tomlin.
That's how we got him. Captain Andrew was hired to take this guy out to the jungle somewhere. And
him and Matt Tomlin.
Some secret base out there that only they know of. And
no doubt.
This and that. And
don't drink the
water.
But
listen, we reported on something that still wasn't on the news, and then it came on the news.
Yeah, of course. We're always first here, man. Right. Listen, we might be a bar show, but you know what? Sometimes you get some of the best scoop at the bar. Okay, so that's kind of how that works, man. And
do not drink the water at San Carlos. I swear I got hepatitis, John Cantanzero.
There you go. Look at this guy, man. He's in all these HIPAA celebrations there.
Best meet your bread, San Carlos. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think didn't it come with like a little side of butter or something? Like, we just put on it.
Let me tell you what that was. Just like going out there, that quesos chela, man, to pick up a couple of those big long micha.
Yeah, that was on the way there, but you had to eat that. You had to eat that stuff. You couldn't put that away for an hour.
No. That was warm. Yeah, no doubt. You ate that warm, man. Especially when it came out of the oven where it was hot and you could just peel out the soft milk. Oh, that was a bomb, man. That was good stuff. I dance ugly. Well, you and me both, brother. I dance ugly as well.
We all dance ugly, man. That's all good.
Elaine Bendis and I relate.
Yeah. We're right with her.
Yeah, no doubt. Murga it is, man. We got to bring that song. I'll bring that back. We got to start doing birthdays again. We just got to, you know what? We got to get something set up where people can, because if I'm not friends with you on Facebook, I don't know your birthdays. And that's the only place I would get them from was ones, and they only let you know, not Zonians, they just let you know the ones that are your friends. So, a lot of people out there that I don't mean to miss your birthday. We just do. We'll be awesome. Right on. Yeah. And Jim Duffus is going to be joining us next month. Remember, guys, next month, the month of May is going to be Panama Canal episodes. Everything is going to be about the canal itself, not about Balboa, not about Panama, not about Rio Hato. It's going to be all about the canal. And so we're going to learn about what it was like working at the Gatun locks, what the whole Gatun locks was all about. Jim worked there for many years, so he's going to tell us all about that.
Captain Andrew
Eftimitis is going to join us. He's a Panama Canal pilot, so he's going to talk about what it's like to navigate the old locks as well as the new locks, and obviously
and
give
Willie.
Us updates
by the way, there's a lot of chatter. There's going to be a fourth set of locks.
Yeah, that chatter's starting to build up again. They're really talking about that, and it's It's interesting what's happened with everything going on in the Middle East right now. A lot of shipping has shifted to this side, right? The earth is round, so you can go in either direction. It may take a little bit longer, but in the long run, you're still able to do things that you normally would need to go in some of those areas you don't want to go to now. So there's been a spike in shipping in this area, and I think it's kind of woken up Panama to say, hey, although people assume it's going to be temporary, but it'll always grow into that eventually. So you might as well prepare for it now.
Yeah, they are preparing. Some of the numbers that are coming out, guys, some ridiculous numbers this week.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in just a moment here about that, because Ricky's got some really interesting news about that, but we don't want to. You don't want
to jump in on that?
Jump in front of. Well, Ricky, listen, this is the way it was probably in school for Ricky too. Ricky, teacher get a complaint that Ricky jumped the line again. Ricky, can you get in the back of the line again? So I got you.
School was a different story, man. School was more in the back of the class. Guayadito, bien bonito.
That's what it was. Bien portado. Bien portado. Good morning from Japan. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I reached out to Akira the other day. They had that earthquake and they were tsunami reports. So I was like, hey, dude, hope you're okay over there. Hope you guys and your family are good. But they were in Tokyo, so it wasn't near there. So good news there. But love hearing from Akira. Like I said, it's not just a Zonian crowd anymore. We've got a lot of folks from all over the world that are watching and tuning in.
Lori, I always tell you guys, Lori does the greatest reels. I don't know what it's called, or scripts or whatever. Right. She's got a future in acting.
No,
I don't know if you guys are following her on Instagram, but very, very well done. Her and her daughter-in-law.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Lori, if you want to get into any kind of video creation with that stuff and you want to learn some stuff, let me know and I'll turn you on to that course that I'm launching out there and let you test it for me. So you remember soccer behind ball? Yes, it was Saturday. It was soccer was a lot of fun out there. Soccer for us in the zone wasn't as big, but then again, it wasn't that big in Panama, in the 60s and 70s.
When we were growing up like it is now, right?
But now, of course, it's absolutely exploded. And thank God. I mean, I'm a huge soccer fan. I'm going to show you something that I went last week to and ran into a Zonian at a soccer event, being a big Manchester United fan. So, but yeah, that was a lot. Listen, the zone, what we've learned about the zone is that they made sure that you were entertained. They made sure that people enjoyed living there, which obviously we can all attest to that.
Government policy.
100% it was. 100% it was, because early on the zone was
we couldn't keep anybody here.
It wasn't a very hospitable place. I mean, when you got to listen, when your chief engineer gets hired and he arrives with his own casket, that's kind of giving you your first clue that this ain't the nicest place, man. So, they had to really incentivize people to go there, and start bringing families and whatnot.
The first social club that the Canal Zone built was the Tarpon Club. And I believe they finally closed it for the new set of locks and relocated. I could be wrong, but we need to ask our Ask-A-Siders about the Tarpon Club. But it was the first one. It was the very first one. Yeah.
It was. And as we've learned, that was something that was really big down there, was these clubs and organizations, because I think the biggest sport that there was down there at the time was bowling. I think that was one of the things they talk about, that early Canal Zone, there was bowling alleys everywhere. That was the thing. Everybody loved to be into bowling back then, apparently. And so, they made sure they created bowling alleys. And then again, a lot of clubs, a lot of secret societies. It was kind of interesting. And, they built the first early churches, and the first church buildings were church on the bottom
Scottish
floor.
Rite Temple. Hello, yes. Look at that building. Wow,
well,
that was like mysterious and magical.
Yes, and check this out. What they did early on was the bottom floors were designated for churches and the top floor was for secret societies. It was part of the government policy and construction. They actually provided for these things.
St. Mary's Church had an upstairs hall.
They sure did.
And you know who designed that? Mr. Grimison.
And I bet you 90% of the people that went to St. Mary's and lived in the zone never even set foot up there. They never even knew that.
Oh, no. If you went to St. Mary's, you were always up there. Remember, we had all our plays, everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I'm talking about the church, not the school.
Oh, what?
Yeah, in other words, the congregation, most people had never been up there. And if you went to St. Mary's school, that was a different story. Because we went there during school and everything.
We went there all the time, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That was.
No, I went to a couple of team parties up there, I remember.
But, it was... It was interesting that the zone, that was a big deal. Part of it was, medical care was not that that great. Considering the strides that they made, it still was difficult, and it was still a very inhospitable place. And what they found was a lot of these societies really worked to help somebody out. When, for example, there wasn't any kind of long-term disability, right? And if you suffer a pretty bad injury working on the canal, you may be down and out for several months. You're not getting paid. And that's where these associations and these societies helped out, and they helped each other out. So you took care of your members. So it was something that was very encouraged. People joined a lot of these things just because you needed that, that fallback or that whatnot. So very, very interesting there. The Tarpon Club was down below the Gatun Spillway, so it was not anywhere near the locks. So new locks did not displace it. Okay, right
I
on.
thought I heard that it was still around, but I'm not sure about that.
Well, it makes sense from what he's saying there because it wasn't near the locks, so therefore the new locks didn't displace it.
Yep.
Right.
I think the one that got displaced had to be the Gatun Yacht Club.
Yeah. Yes, I believe it was. I believe that was part of that area that just got encircled, and you can't even access it, unless you got special permission. The Tarpon Club was down below the Gatun Spillway. They were in the locks. Yep, right on, as we just talked about there. So yeah, so that was some interesting stuff there regarding, the reunion and who's going to be there, and somehow we digress into all this other stuff there. But again, guys, check out the reunion.
Announcements.
A lot of good things. It was our announcement there, and we, and this is you jumped the line. That's what it was. See, this is what happens when you jump in line there. Yeah.
Well, listen, I don't know if we're ready to announce this, but how about Andrew's Museum? You want to talk about that?
Well, we're going to talk about that here in just a bit, because that is something that we are going to mention here. But I wanted to, before we touch on that there, we were going to, something that Ricky started last week, and we're going to try and continue it this week. He started last week, and then, he didn't have any pictures this week. So fortunately, we did
social media used to always have people's pictures, but then I'm here searching to see what people are up to. Oh my God, nobody posts anymore. Oh, our social media hides it. I don't know. But yeah. It's you're gonna have to send me your picture, guys, because I can't go out there and find them.
Yeah, we'll look around and see what we find, because there's always, that is true though. There's always a Zonian out there somewhere doing something, but
we seem to, it's like it's always available for us to see now.
Yeah,
try to find something on social media. It's got to scroll through hours of other stuff.
No, absolutely. Oh, you're very welcome, Akita. Absolutely, it's a pleasure to chat with you all the time, and we really appreciate you chiming in and saying hello. And so, it just, as soon as I saw that news, that was the first thing that came to mind. I wonder where Akita's at, and hopefully he's not near there. So good for you. And you know what I read is just absolutely interesting, kind of crazy in a way, that Japan, I think they feel like an earthquake every few days or something, even if it's a slight tremor. It's just a very, very, very active place. I could be wrong on the time frame, but it's very, very frequent. Most of them are very minor, but it's a place where, if the ground shakes, I think a lot of the Japanese are like, okay, it's another tremor, man.
San Francisco's no different. We have over 300 earthquakes a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So
but I mean, like the ground shake small ones.
Yeah,
we shake all the time. We have a tracker. It tells you. Today we had a 2.4. That's right, we had a 3.1.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. But no, that's interesting. So anyhow, Zonians around the world, because we do find some Zonians here and there, and they just happen to be a couple of Zonians in Tampa. Okay, myself and Kim Holt, Atlantic side, and then a little bit of the Pacific side towards the end there. But her older brother Richard Holt from the Atlantic side, great baseball player.
Yep.
Anyhow, her husband, Terry Griffin, is a Manchester United fan through and through. In fact, I'll tell you, if there's ever, as Zonians, we are not envious of anybody's childhood, because we could certainly argue that we had the best childhood in the world growing up in the Canal Zone. But if I didn't have the option of growing up in the Canal Zone, her husband, Terry, who's in that the picture on the top there, he's right behind me to my right there. His dad worked for Manchester United, and so he was a ball boy, growing up with all these superstars, and he was on the sidelines handing him the ball for throw-ins and things like that. So, I remember when I first met him, we happened to start talking about Manchester United, and man, when he told me that, I was like, wow, dude, what a great childhood. If there's ever another childhood other than being a Zonian that was awesome, it would be that, because I'm a huge United fan. So, but anyway, last week in Tampa, there was something called the Fan Fest. And this is something that NBC Sports puts on about 5 or 6 times around the country for fans of the Premier League soccer, which is really, really big now. And NBC, covers all the games. And so it was really cool to see so many Manchester United fans, in this place here. And it was cool to run into Zonians there. So that was a lot of fun. Kim and Terry are going to be hosting and maybe I shouldn't say that if she hadn't invited people, but Panama and England play on the 27th of June for the World Cup, and they're going to have people over for that. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's coming quick. June
yes.
is just weeks away.
I got to get my passport renewed, man. I am running out of time, dude. I'm procrastinating like a some bitch on that, man. But anyway, Ricky, what's going on in Panama?
Wow. Well, first, I mean, there's a lot going on. First, I do want to throw out a little bit here. You want to do the museum a little later, you said?
Yeah. We'll talk about that here in just a bit.
All right. Well, guys, the big news has been two things. The bridge, the Bridge of the Americas, a.k.a. Thatcher Ferry Bridge. They had the big explosion and then the big worry that it was damaged. And then, of course, between the Panamanian engineers and the Corps of Engineers, they did a thorough inspection of the bridge, and it has been determined that it's completely okay. The bridge has been built like Will said, like a sumbitch, stronger than heck.
Yeah,
American built, so to speak. Yeah, but they're running tests now. Some of the end results have been that the structure is for sure is no problem. They're going to repaint it because the maintenance on it has been weak, and plus the explosion, caused some soot all over the place, and in the heat they lost some coatings. So they're going to repaint it, and then once the new bridge is built, and then they're going to not necessarily just the surface, they're going to redo the whole deck. Okay. So take out the existing concrete deck and put in a new one, and then of course resurface it. But from here to there, they're going to be resurfacing it. The deck is fine. In
essence, rebuild that thing.
Which is good because at one point, Willie, they were just ready to tear it down that quick. Now they realize, wait a second, we can't. We need these bridges. The growth of the country requires those bridges to all 100%. Be operating.
And that would have been devastating if they had deemed that bridge damaged to the point that you're going to have to just tear it down and start over. God, you're talking 5 or 6 years, best case, before you could have a replacement up. Because they're still working on the other one next to it, and that's been several years. So
yeah, I don't know about 5 or 6, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Oh, I would think
but
so.
We got lucky. But then again, that was we got lucky. And the worst thing is that they haven't even stopped that company from continuing to do the same thing.
Of course not.
That's amazing to me. So, anyways, they closed the bridge down for what? So, what they've done is they've put in these like motion sensors, stress sensors.
Okay.
Like absorbers to see how the bridge behaves with the weight. Because believe me, a bridge doesn't stand still. A bridge is constantly moving.
Yep, that's right.
So they're putting all these monitor devices all over it, and they're calibrating it right now. So last night they closed it for a couple of hours, and then they're going to close it again. And then they ran some tests. They're going to close it again Saturday, 2 a.m. to about Sunday, 10 a.m. Sunday. So what is it? It's about 4-hour closing between Saturday and Sunday, really late at night. So it's actually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's what it is. So after 2 a.m. you'll be able to get back on the bridge, and again calibrating it, making sure that the monitors they're putting in there are properly set to keep an eye on this bridge. So that's really good news for.
So in essence, it's getting an upgrade.
Yeah, an upgrade, and then the big thing is consumer confidence. People need to get back on that bridge, to feel like it's not going to fall down. Yeah. So I think bringing in a Corps of Engineer, that the consumer confidence part of it is going to.
Yeah, that's a smart move.
That's a smart move. And then since they're there, the president's like, well, let's look at our water issues that we're having.
While we're here.
Yeah, while we're here, you guys are pretty good with water. Let's figure out a big water plan. So Panama's doing a big water, like a 25-year plan of all the water. Because one thing Panama has is a ton of water, but not managed like, baby can do a little better than that. Like I said earlier, there's talk now of fourth bridge being considered, and and the reason is supply and demand. The things that are going on in Russia with Ukraine and the Persian Gulf has knocked out a lot of places where you can buy oil and gas, and the places that are selling oil and gas are closer to the locks. The demands on the Asian market, so to get from the Atlantic side to the Asian markets, you got to cross the canal. So that's what they're talking about. The reason why they're talking about the fourth lock. Now, big discussion started already in my chat group. How long is it going to take? Between some of the people in that chat group, which includes engineers, captains, you name it, we're all in there. Some people say between 5 and 8 years to build a fourth set of locks, because most of the approaches are already done, the depth's already there, so truly just be like almost just built locks. But where? Right next to it on the west side. So we know there's a fourth lock coming to the canal. We know traffic now is up to 40 ships. We've been telling you guys 40 ships what the numbers are a day.
Wow. Impressive.
From 32, from actually 28 from the pandemic,
right,
and the El Nino issue, up to 32. I think last week or 2 weeks ago we informed you it was up to 36. Now they're up to 40. Nice. 40 ships going through. Wait time is between 6 and 7 days. The canal, ACP already brought out the numbers. The water, we have plenty of water going. We're actually going into rainy season, so that all works out really nice. Now, Willie, with all this new demand, right, going through the canal, they have this, the way you go through the canal is they have like a bid. Okay, right. If you want to go Sunday at 4:00, let's put a bid out, right? And everybody puts out a bid. All right, I'll pay $20,000 to go through. I'll pay $25,000. Well, Willie, guess what one person paid to get through the canal?
Oh, I know. I'm not taking guesses. I know.
$4 million to get to the front of the line.
That's basically to buy a fast pass.
Buy a fast pass. $4 million.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
How about this? So let's, win-win for Panama. And then last week I was looking at the numbers of that 6,000 number, and that was because I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Up till today or yesterday, 6,288 ships have crossed the freaking canal in 2026.
Wow.
I mean, how many days so far in the year? I mean, it should be easy to find. Divided into that.
We just started the second quarter.
That's an amazing number, man. So right on canal,
quarter
running smoothly, no problem. Personnel's there, water's there, everything's there, and the cash register is working to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, all right. So we got bridge, we got canal, now we got the ports. Oh my God, the ports. This one's a little long, guys, because I got to take you through the whole scenario. All right, so we all started, with we all know what happened there, right at the beginning. So, after the Supreme Court was looking at the case, if you guys remember, it all started with the Chinese warning us, right? The whole country, truly,
right,
warning us that you're going to pay a heavy price, right? And we kind of responded, non-confrontational, say, hey, this is the Supreme Court, let them do their stuff, right? That was the first round. And then the thing went through, right? They lost the case, and China's first escalation, which is normal, the lawsuit, right? And then Panama responded by just low key, then escalate. Sure. And then the response was, hey, we don't want to fight with you guys, respect our Supreme Court. So China,
we really like you guys.
With the lawsuit, they also said we're not going to use your ports anymore.
Right.
So that was their first escalation, and then of course
out across the bow.
Yeah. So then when they did that, we retaliated by raiding their offices to extract all the information we could from them, and of course, really out of that came out, all the drug trade that was going through there was rampant. They found some secret offices that, of course, we know what those secret offices were all about. So they kind of, made their case a little bit, harder to beat Panama once they do get to court. Yeah. So China, what does China do? They escalate yet again by adding another $2 billion to the lawsuit, and then telling Merck and MSC, which I always slip and say MSG,
Right.
kicking them out of the port. Say no, you guys can't operate that because kicking them out, and so PDY kind of Panama's response to that escalation was, the president goes, hey, look, man, truly no worries, because at the end, this is when things were starting to heat up with Iran. He said, they're going to need us more than we're going to need them. By the way, we only do trade with them 40 million a year.
Right.
As an example, we do just under 1 billion with the U.S. And by the way, Willie, real quick, who the big foreign investors are in Panama? We all know it's the U.S. But here, check out who number 2, 3, and 4 are: Colombia, Barbados, and Switzerland. Unbelievable that I saw that. Yeah, Switzerland.
Wow.
And by the way, my cousin's the Panamanian ambassador to Switzerland.
Oh, very nice. I would assume Switzerland's probably a lot of pharmaceuticals, because Switzerland's big.
It has to be the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah,
I guess I can ask my cousin, Natalia.
Yeah, I bet that's
Aristides' daughter. Well, then, so then, China gets upset for this response, that Panama's like, hey, because we're just a tiny little country, and China's the second world power. Right. So the Chinese like, what do you mean, no worries, right?
Well, so Britain's a great example that size does not always determine it, because Panama's
right. Well, we're location, right? So they escalate even more. We're talking. This is the third escalation now, right? And what do? They start inspecting all Panamanian flagships and all their ports.
Slow walking them,
and it's causing it's a problem, because it's making Panama look bad, even though the ship registry is not one of the top 10 earners of the country. It's still a big,
but it's still a big deal, because Panama is one of the biggest registries in the world.
Correct. It's cool to have that. We're number 1, number 2, whatever number we are.
You got to get a ship out there on the road, and these people are holding it up for paperwork. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So now Panama escalates. Responds, doesn't escalate. Right. Responds by getting a coalition together, which is what you mentioned last week, Willie. Yep. Of course, if all the users of the canal, they got together and said, look, you guys, Chinese, you're not doing anybody a favor. You're actually hurting yourself more than you're hurting anybody else, because truly it's your products, that you're coming out of your ports that you're holding back.
Right.
So then things got quiet, and then the Gulf War starts, and not going to lie, this one's on me. I think that the next escalation was in the Gulf War. If you guys recall, I don't know if you guys follow geopolitics, but Iran recently boarded a cargo ship or a petroleum ship.
Yeah.
And the petroleum ship was owned by Panama, and was registered by Panama and owned by MSC.
Of course.
We're bochincheros, so that's all we are here.
Yep. We just did it. We just call it.
So no, I think I thought, Willie, that's an escalation. That's just letting us know one again that they can hurt us in many different places.
Without a doubt.
So that is what's going on with our ports, man. Little Panama's taking on the big Chinese giant. No escalation. We're trying to keep it cool, but that's that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's get down to some good social stuff. Willie, there is this podcast. Anybody got any questions? Throw out your stuff out there. So I'm going kind of fast through this. If you have any questions regarding the ports, what's going on, just let us know.
I think we're going to kind of wait to see right now how it's all going to play out, because there's a lot of stuff.
Right. We got to wait and see. But every week it's an escalation of the Chinese they're getting more and more upset about this. All right. Let's get into the nicer stuff. Willie, there's this podcaster with Zonian blood, Que Sopa, like What's Happening Brian is his name, and he's doing a really good job, and he's getting a tremendous amount of followers. And the reason why I'm mentioning him, Willie, is because he had this guy come on, and this guy brought in I was watching, brought in a lot of viewers. I think he's either an actor or something from like David Chiriqui or something in that area, up in that area, and he asked a really great question. He asked, what happened to the Zonians? That was his question on the podcast. Caught me my attention because normally people don't ask that. They ask about the canal, the history, the law.
Sure.
But and he was saying, they're so integrated into our society. What happened to them? And I'm like, wow, this is from a guy from far away. He actually mentioned, which is a great idea in my opinion, is there should be a museum of how the Zonians lived, like a house, so that people can go inside what a Zonian home.
Well, I heard in Fort Clayton, I heard they've preserved some quarters there that are like that.
Well, I think the same thing with Gatun and a few other, and and so they were talking like what do you think would identify a Zonian home? And the guy was going, well, they like to frame all their all pictures of the Canal Zone, which I'm like, yeah, that's true. We all had that. He goes, they also like to have molas all over the place. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But just got my attention that a show like that truly has nothing to do with the Canal Zone would ask that question. Right. What happened to the Zonian? So that kind of leads us into, well, it shouldn't lead us right into the museum, but God, I'm really dying to talk about his
you
museum.
Are just hold it up,
because it's a cool, great thing that Andrew's doing there. All right, let's get to the expat community, which is very important for a lot of people, especially my age group. Forbes, once again, a lot of magazines are coming out with this. Number one expat place to retire, Boquete. Once again, number one in the world. Now, before it was number one in the region, then number one in the Americas, now number one in the world. So Boquete, sorry, but you guys are going to get inundated.
Well, and speaking of Boquete, Coach Cotton, our Balboa Rams Coach Cotton celebrated a birthday this week, 84th birthday. Happy birthday to you,
Happy
Coach
birthday,
Cotton,
Coach.
Boquete.
And I know he's up there. He's up there somewhere. He's either Volcan or
in Boquete.
Cerro Punta or
he's in Boquete and Texas.
Right on. Yeah. Well, listen, they're promoting why Boquete? Weather. We all know that everything's in the low 70s. Yeah. Coffee, organic food, pristine water, jazz and blues festivals, flower festivals, and the most amazing Airbnbs on the market right now. So if you guys haven't been out to Boquete, I would say book a flight, go check it out, because it looks to be the spot. I mean, place to be. So in other words, they must have great infrastructure. So the internet must really work quite well.
It's always been a place that was a great visit. It just was kind of a well-kept secret. I mean, the people that knew about it. But, if you didn't know about it, it was just another way far in the interior place, but it has been, like you said, the expats go there. I mean, it's a big American presence there, and it is the climate. It's up in the mountains, guys. So the climate's fantastic. You still have the great, rainy dry season component, but you've got it up in the mountains, guys. So in the evenings, it's nice and cool out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the number 2 has been El Cangrejo, and number 3 is Coronado, and we all know those two spots. Willie, more on the social. Recently in Panama right now is the center of attention of the literary world community. I mean, Panama does a lot to promote art, but not just for Panama, but regionally. So it's kind of the center. And recently, Dan Brown, the guy that wrote the book Da Vinci Code, he was down there. Yeah, he was down there promoting his book or his movie called Wild Symphony. And the president welcomed him. I mean, it's big time to get Dan Brown to come to your...
Interesting.
On my side, I'm frozen. I don't know if you see
your video is frozen, but your audio is good. So we can still hear
continue.
You.
It'll come back on. So it's, it's what why Panama is the center of attention right now. Yeah. But as you know, Panama is just big on book conferences, and now they even have a city of art, which is called Corundu.
Yeah, I saw that.
So Dan Brown was down there with the Philharmonica Symphony of Panama, and I saw the pictures, and guess who I saw in the pictures? Our very own Noriel. So he was at the.
Yes, I did see that
at the event, and
wasn't it the Balboa Theater?
At the Balboa Theater. They had
the
iconic Balboa Theater.
Yeah. Yes, that was. I did see Noriel there. That was awesome to see him there.
Yes. And then for all you Zonians that follow Shorty and Slim, I know you love his music. Well, I'm not sure if this is one of his the guys that he likes to follow, but in Panama, there's a very, very iconic calypso band called the Beachers, and they were honored by the National Assembly for 60 years of playing calypso music to the Panamanian people.
60 years. That's amazing, man.
Amazing. Well, our Shorty and Slim is 30 years, so they're halfway there.
So if you were playing in the 70s, you would be about that point now.
Yeah, so they're called the Beachers.
Wow.
So if you guys can look them up on YouTube, check them out. They're a iconic calypso band from Panama.
That's really cool.
HB lets us know, and he told us last week actually, but I'm going to repeat it because this is important, which ties into the museum as well. Willie, big industry developing and again, our captain is part of this as well. Developing in Panama is the cruises,
cruises.
which we know as the half transit cruises.
Yes, partial transit.
Or I think they call it half transit. It's the Zonian terminology from the dictionary. But that's big now. Everybody's doing that. There's a lot of boats going across the canal, and Friday nights, big thing, just like it was in the 50s and 60s. But the people now, which HP is doing, is providing. They're doing the history of the canal days and the construction days and the early Panama days. So it's a big business now in Panama with the cruises to talk about canal history. So right now, Panama's in everybody's minds, and then within Panama, the canal zone's in everybody's minds.
It's interesting how the timing of this is all, it's with everything that's gone on recently and China now getting kind of moved out of having so much influence in Panama. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that they did purposely try and kind of erase the canal zone in the American, history.
I noticed it when I went back after 10 years. I noticed that.
It's nice to see that, and who knows, maybe we can take a little credit here because the era of podcasting about Panama and canal zone and that history seemed to have kicked off about 2 years ago, which is about the time that we kicked off. So
there's
either we timed it right or but there's a lot
about the canal.
Yeah, there really is. It's a lot of history going out there now, and which is a lot of fun. It's great to see it. It's great to see, that it's recognized as something that's. I mean, look what it's done to Panama, right? Panama would have been a province of. It's funny. I was going through an audio overview that I created on Notebook for some excavation stuff, and according to a lot of research, it really was up to this one Senator Han, I believe was his name, from Missouri, that really, suddenly shifted from this canal being built in Nicaragua, and Panama would have been a province of jungles and and so
it would have been jungle. That would have done something, but we understand.
Listen, I mean, look at the size of Panama City when the United States came in and built a canal. You're talking the tens of thousands of people there.
Truly, Willie, there was nobody. Remember, the Russians were like, "Yeah, we'll look at it, but I don't think so." So it was either the U.S. or there was no canal.
That continental divide.
Yeah,
you're absolutely
right. It was either the U.S. as a country, or that's it. Nobody else had the capacity. So you're probably right about that. All that money would have been spent in Nicaragua, and people are going to go where the U.S. is. That's just the way it is.
It would have been sea level there, so it would have been different. You wouldn't have had the same need for
canal zone. That would have never been a canal zone.
100%.
So who is that guy? With Hannah?
Yeah, I think it was Senator Hanna.
Right on, Hannah. I think I know there's a big Hanna family in the canal zone.
Well, this guy in Congress up in the Senate back then was supposedly one of those very influential senators. One that was all of a sudden, he's kind of a Charlie Wilson type that he could get
Charlie
Wilson
all
the time.
Yeah, Afghanistan. Well, we did that show with David, actually 2 or 3 shows about behind the scene, the people behind the scene.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up, Willie, so we can get into the other stuff, which is sports. We have just a few things on sports. Since we talked about the football season and all that, well, they just kind of wrapped up these like Central American games, but it's actually way more than Central American games. It was out south from Mexico all the way down to Argentina.
Right.
And they give it a new name, but it is a qualifier for the Olympics, and Panama did quite well, 17 medals. You know, for Central Americans, they blew every other Central American country away in the medal
Pan American
count.
Games back in the day, which used to be huge.
Like the Pan American Games, exactly. So we got 8th place, number one in the most medals in Central America. 8th are 4 gold medals. The girls football team got a gold medal, which is they're also favorites in the Olympic. The boys football team, I couldn't believe it. They got the silver. But Willie, in the playoff round, look at the scores. They first played Brazil, 55-34 Panama. Then they played Uruguay. These are big countries.
Right.
60 to 13.
Yep.
Then they played Argentina, 63-20. And then came the big championship game, and they lost to Brazil 35-32 or 34-32.
And where were the games played?
In Panama.
Oh, they were in Panama.
Yeah, they were in Panama.
Okay. I thought
And they played at the Emilio Arroyo Stadium.
Okay.
But man, they lost. How could they have lost after wiping everybody out that bad?
It's probably not a bad thing. Every so often a loss gets you to regroup, and
But
because
we should have had
when
the
you're
medal.
slaughtering everybody, you start walking around real cocky, and
Right. I think that's definitely a
what's the
sign of
ultimate
that.
prize, right? Is the Olympic gold. So you kind of need these things.
Yeah, and we like to take credit for the DNA. Of that,
and rightly so. Okay.
And rightly so, because we beat the heck out of those guys when they came over to play football with us.
The rest of the Americas is hands down a vast difference, which is 50 years of football before everybody else got it. That's bottom line. There's no other way you can say it. These people, the kids playing football right now for Panama in these competitions, their dads, and in maybe some cases their grandfather played football in the zone.
Those kids will probably be in the lightweights in that, but definitely you see all the names: Arango, Arosemena. You see all the same names, Roots, all the same guys. Sucre, I know them all, man. I played against them all. But yeah, man, we pounded on those boys pretty good, man. Now look at them; they're pounding on the world, man.
Yep, they learned. They learned from the best. Because remember, we had stateside teams coming down here to play against us.
They pounded us the first time they came. I remember that. I didn't play against
that. Never happened again. After that, it was nothing but Canal's own dominance, and it carried
Coral
over to Panama,
Gable
which now has dominance in the world.
There were two teams: Coral Gable Packers and the K-Land Kiwani Colts.
The K-Land Colts. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Yes.
That was interesting, but interesting stuff.
That was our Bochinche segment. Again, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was some good stuff, some interesting stuff there. We're contemplating bringing back the Bochinche song, and we'll maybe do that. But like Ricky said, we'll do this once a month, do a heavy Bochinche show. The other ones
we just did on the last week and big heavy one.
I think so. That makes sense. It works well, But anyhow, let's keep moving things along real quick, and then we'll get to our Panama Canal Review magazine, because I do enjoy that one.
I think Andrew wants us to chit chat about his museum.
Well, that's part of the review. I mean, that's what's coming in there, because remember, it's a related article. Lord have mercy, this guy. Thank God this wasn't a secret, man, because he's let the cat out of the bag 4 times already. So just for what it's worth.
Andrew's working hard. He has us very involved, and I just love it. And
no, he really is. He really is, and it's a lot of fun to see what he's putting together. We're going to talk about it in just a moment here, but let's move along with our sponsor real quick, and then we'll get into our Panama Canal review.
We're still looking for our Howler Monkey hot sauce spokesperson. Just got an email from Panama.
You've got mail.
Hey, I'm Mac, and I grew up behind Howard Air Force Base in Panama. I can talk about hot sauce. On pizza, uy, que rico. So I just miro la camera and say, I'm Mac. I grew up in these trees next to Howard Air Force Base. Hey, are we really going to Napoli? And let me tell you, the flavors of ají chombo, garlic, and onions, they each hit you one at a time, and it's so delicious. Howler Monkey Original brings the true taste ají chombo of Panama to your pizza game.
Do you know a howler monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers? Or the fresh punch of verde where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, fired up with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
All right, there we go. So hopefully that's the case. By the way, Chris Jeffries, he's probably in the air right now because he usually chimes in, but he was the winner last week of our trivia and got himself a 4-pack of Howler Monkey sauce. So let me know which is your favorite one there, which one you like the most. Like I said, I've always liked the yellow, that Amarillo's fantastic, man. It's got a great flavor to it. It's got a great body to it, and it's not overpowering. You know, there's some of these hot sauces to get out there that, you know, the bomb and nuclear.
Yeah,
this
I got
and all
some
that.
from Panama. Those are hot, man, down
Ridiculous. You know, what's the point? You know,
Andrew brought me a whole bunch.
If you're gonna use that type of hot sauce, you know, cook cheap food. You know, don't ruin a great like a fillet or something on something like that, because you're not going to taste the food. You're just going to get fried into your mouth. So throw that shit on a cheap McDonald's burger or something. That's because you're not going to taste quality food there. But this stuff here does bring out a good flavor, because it's just enough to pique that taste, you know. And I mean, there's some fire to it. That red one does have fire, no doubt about it. But yeah, they have some good flavor. They're all, like I said, they're all natural. You know, you definitely got to shake it up, man, because it's when you take that thing out and you look at it after you've opened it and you see all the stuff settle at the bottom, you realize, man, there's some good stuff in there, right? And there's not preservative, so you know, but it's good enough that you'll use it quickly anyway. So, but Chris, enjoy it. Let us know what your thoughts are and whether you're enjoying it or not. So.
Yeah, and that was fun, though. I'm glad we got that all worked out, and we had great participations, like 9 or 10 people, so that was cool.
Yeah, it was, and we're gonna, and hopefully we'll build up some more. And one of the things that we have been lacking on here is promoting the show, which a lot of times will bring a bigger crowd. So we got to start doing that. Ricky and I are working on a couple of things, and we just, you know, been switching gears on a lot of other things outside of the podcast that have, you know, keep us busy.
We don't really promote anything, man. We just
we don't. Honestly, we
we
not
need
like
to
we
spend
used
more
to,
time on that.
you know,
yeah.
well, you know, when I was at, you know, working at the logistics company, I would always go in early in the morning, right? I was a trainer there, so I usually go in, and usually my stuff was ready to go and ready to be set up. So I typically my promo videos were always kind of the same background, which was me walking from the parking garage to the building, you know, and it's about a 45-second walk, so it's enough time to bust out the phone and, you know, hey guys, we got a great show tonight, whatever. And then when I'd get upstairs, I would upload it real quick and pull up my editing software, and I'd have it done in 10 or 15 minutes. And so then I could launch it and then go about my day. And it was very easy to do, but now you would think that working at home you have more time, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So, you know, if we do, though, we can certainly get more people to watch, and which would be fun. But always, guys,
so don't forget, hit subscribe and hit like and all that. That helps us out a lot.
You know, if something comes out, you know, one thing that Ricky and I have made a commitment to do is start taking our old shows and putting together some short videos out of them to put out there, because there's a lot of cool, fun information, maybe some fun moments that you put enough of them out there and people are like, oh, I want to watch this show. That sounds pretty cool. That looks pretty fun. So
yeah, cool.
But
we want to get to that 500 number. Where are we? 435, something like that.
We're getting there. We're getting there. But as everything, you know, we're all about, you know, promoting the life that we grew up living in the Canal Zone. It was a wonderful life, and one of the ways that you can do that is going to the Panama Canal Museum collection. You know, the University of Florida has a incredible collection of memorabilia, of a lot of digital stuff of the Canal Zone. And one of the things they have is a very extensive collection of this Panama Canal review. So when you get a chance, check them out. Their website will pop up here on this intro. But this is one part that I really enjoy, because I'm a big fan of history and nostalgia, and this is really what this piece is all about. So enjoy.
Cool.
There we go. That was the Canal Review. That was always a cool magazine to get. I remember when we'd get it at home in the zone there, and if you it always had great photos in it, great pictures, a lot of historical stuff, and like I said, prior to me, being old enough or even being born, they were very much historical. When I was looking at them, they were more of a almost a
Very
cosmetology.
colorful. I remember that. That's one thing I
Extremely.
remember about them. Yeah.
Yeah, and like on the image you see here, it's just a bunch of scattered different covers of the magazines, and that was one of the things that was very iconic about them was their covers. They were all,
Mhm.
even the cover itself had a message, something that was going to be in that episode or in that volume that was always really fun. But anyhow, so first thing we're going to go over, and this is kind of interesting. This one just came across by accident. What I've done is I've gone through the collection, and we want to do it by months, right? Month of April. So we just went through a lot of different Panama Canal Review magazines for that month of April. Later on, after the mid late 60s, it started to now be less of it wasn't a monthly magazine anymore. It was I think it was quarterly. I think it was and then from there it started being twice a year, and but again, by then it didn't have the content that I'm looking for, so not that big a deal. But looking at April, this is what I first came across was in the 1954 April Panama Canal Review. There was an article there of the legacy of the canal builders and the 1954 honor roll. And there was a dozen people listed on there. And as I start going through the names, lo and behold, I come across the name Gregor Gramlich.
Yeah, I remember that name. That's a Balboa Ram, the football name.
Yes, absolutely. And I was like, wow, isn't that, and Gramlich is not certainly, or Gramlich, depending how you want to pronounce it. It's not a common name, right?
Fastlich, Gramlich.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There you go. And so I reached out to Greg Gramlich. He didn't respond. He's not on Facebook very often. If he posts once every.
He was a serious kid. I remember that. He was a serious kid. Yeah. Those guys weren't. Yeah.
But his sister Jeannie, she's on quite a bit and whatnot, and she congratulations, Jeannie just got married. Her and Renee Tiger Acuna, got married. They're actually on their honeymoon right now in New Zealand. So enjoy your honeymoon out there. Good morning to you guys. But I messaged them and said, hey, I came across this. Is this a relative? Is this family? And she came back and she's like, oh my God, that's my great grandfather. I was like, how cool that is, So it was just a fun little connection there to see that her great grandfather was mentioned in 1954 on this honor roll. And what they were talking about is this was people that were still working for the Panama Canal Company, the Isthmian Canal Commission, whichever one you wanted to call it, since way back in the day. And he had been working there for a very, very, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was 41 years had been working there. So you do the math there. He was started there in 1913. You think about it, the canal it hadn't even opened yet, and he's already working there. And here we are later on in what we consider the heyday of the canal zone, where it's already, the canal's already been built, it's been operated. They even tried to expand it a little bit here. Now you're into the 50s, and here this guy's still working in the canal zone, and left obviously a great legacy with kids and grandkids and great grandkids that we grew up with. So that was just a really cool article. A couple of things they talked about on there was the Elite 41. They said only 41 employees earned the fourth bar on that Roosevelt medal that we've learned about from Dave Dahlstrom, the Canal Zone historian. And each one of those bars represented 10 years of work, of service. And so if you had 4 bars, you'd been there 40 plus years, and only 41 people had been able to achieve that, which is pretty amazing. And by 1954, only 12 of these medal holding employees remained in active service. There may have been others that were still alive, but they were still continuing to work for the Canal Zone and the canal. There was a dozen of them in 1954. That's kind of a great legacy. And of course that Roosevelt medal, as they mentioned there, recognition is part of working in that construction. It was a big deal. It was a really, really big deal. So I just thought that was really, really interesting to come across that. And then, and I do that often when I see those things and they're recognizing people. I've learned to now go through the names and see which ones you recognize and find out if it's got a connection to someone we know now, because we've seen that a lot of people do have some really extensive legacies in the Canal Zone that go over 100 years. We know the Smith family, predates the Canal Zone in the Panama Canal. So it's really cool to see that, and that was an interesting article there. Another thing that came across in the 1950s. Okay. Yep. And this was again April of 1950. This is 1958. The Great Changeover. Ricky, you looked this up. What did you learn about this great change here?
Well, if you had a bunch of electrical appliances and stuff, you had to probably change them all.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a very extensive and very detailed explanation there, Ricky. Thank you. So basically, what happened was in 1958, and I'm not an electrician, so I'm not going to pretend I know how this stuff works. But the one thing that I did come to understand was that your electric motors work on cycles, and there's a certain number of cycles that they work in, and the power source has to match that cycle or it will burn up your motor. It won't run smoothly or run correctly. Bottom line is, in 1958, the Canal Zone government changed to this 60 cycle power system. And what they had to do was not update or modify or upgrade everybody's stuff. They had to replace everything. And so as you see some of the numbers there, 2,661 clocks, 1,512 fans, 2,283 refrigerators had to be replaced. 1,000 plus record players, 1,100 washing machines. So it was interesting. And being that the Canal Zone, unlike the United States, it was an enclave of the United States, but it was all very much government run. You weren't going to run to Sears and Kmart in this place. And, the government took care of replacing everything. It was just part of living in the zone. You just had to go through this. So, but I thought that was just kind of an interesting thing there, because there were some different eras where things changed, like Ricky just mentioned earlier. You go back to 1943 and all of a sudden the traffic changed directions, so there were times when things were going a certain way in the Canal Zone. They set them up that way either because that was what was available at the time, or they thought that was a better idea, whatever the case was. But as the zone evolved, we've learned that they change a lot of things. In one of our future episodes, we'll cover, how they came up with the decision to come up with these new town sites, when they decided to add, Diablo and, add, Cardenas and stuff. And Cardenas, by the way, was initially for the FAA. It was a air traffic control town. But it was just kind of interesting how they went about this, because it was before our time. But it would be interesting to see nowadays, or when we grew up in the 70s, to suddenly see, hey, take everything out of the fridge. Why? They're coming to bring us a new fridge. Oh, great. We get a new fridge, So I guess in some ways, a lot of people got upgrades, if you probably had a machine for several years, it was nice to get a new one simply because the zone decided to change their power and stuff. So, but the other big thing that came about in this era, and now Ricky's finally going to get his chance to talk about Andrew Eftimitis.
Promote my brother's museum.
There was a lot of things that in the 50s that were big changes in the world, when it came to electronics. Computers were starting to come around and mainstream, television and things like that. And so one of the things that happened in that era that we learned from this magazine here was that we brought in some new computers to print out cards for people's payroll. Right. And started punching out these punch cards with a bunch of holes punched in them. And that's what you would use as your payroll check for a while there. It was all computerized.
Yeah, that's where my dad first worked. And Mr. MacArthur, Dickie MacArthur, Lolly MacArthur, their father was the boss of all that.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
very
that's where my dad first worked at, right out of Canal Zone College.
Yep. And also they talk about here, and this was in 1955, the thriving construction era town of Pedro Miguel. They started moving a lot of the official offices, because Pedro Miguel, for a while there, in addition to a lot of the residential area there, had a lot of offices, had a lot of Canal Zone offices and stuff going on.
A lot of maintenance there.
Yes, absolutely. And because it was right next to the canal, literally, it was right on the water there.
On two set of locks too, right between the two locks. Yeah,
it was sandwiched between the two locks, and so, but that started to die down, and then of course it had resurrected, I guess you could call it, or kind of came back to life as a residential area later on. But that was kind of what was going on back then. And then something else interesting here that, as we talk about earlier, we mentioned there was a lot of different clubs in the Canal Zone, right? A lot of different associations, organizations to make life fun and enjoyable in the zone. And one of them was in Corzal was a miniature railroad, but it call it miniature, but it was very extensive. It was a model railroad club, right? And they had a lot of really interesting, just the whole model railroad industry. My dad was big time into this. I remember we went through several model railroads as a kid, and they were. I mean, my dad didn't spare a penny on them, right? And the time, I mean, he threw together some really amazing dioramas and setups with the different tracks and switches and changes, and a mountain here, a tunnel, or buildings and towns and everything. And it's kind of interesting that we're talking about that now, and then what Ricky's been chomping at the bit to talk about, which is something Captain Andrew Eftimitis is working on, which is a very interesting project. Ricky, go ahead and tell us about it while I try and cue.
You know what? It's when he first started talking about it, a lot of us were like, "What? Why are you going to get involved with this? This sounds like nobody's going to come." But basically, he cuts it the cut and shield, and it's an Isthmian Construction and Defense Museum, and it's going to be truly about the construction days, and then of course all the military bases and how they defended the canal. But he is going to be doing this first before to promote the museum. He's going to have this model, which is going to be taking you back to 1911, and he calls it the raw industrial power era of the canal. And it's the model's an 11-mile area and scaled down to 187th. But it's going to be, like it's between Culebra and Paraíso, which we've been talking a lot about Paraíso today. And by the way, Willie, you know that they have their own reunions? Paraíso, Gamboa, Pedro Miguel, and Rainbow City. They celebrate their own reunions. But it's going to be a miniature model of an 11-mile area of all the work. So you guys can get a feel what it was like with all the trains going back and forth and the excavation. And so it's going to be an incredible miniature model of the Panama Canal. And if you see there the triangular roofs, he's already built that model. I've seen it.
Yeah, that's actually a photo of the model itself. It's
that is a photo of the model?
Yes.
No way. That's see what I mean? It's incredible.
He brought in some people, and he's still looking for some other folks to help him work on this. But he's building the dioramas. With dioramas, basically that whole landscape and made to look, in miniature, to look and resemble the real thing. And I mean, you're talking about using maps where they cover all the elevations, and so his elevations on these things are accurate, right? When you see that climb up there, if it goes up 60 feet, well, he's going to make it 60 feet, and make the contours proper. And like Ricky mentioned, that triangular roof building there, that was part of the initial railroad areas there, and the covered areas where you'd have these coming in, and that's a screenshot. I actually have a video he shot, but as he shot the video, took his phone and he just kind of went around different angles and directions, and it looks authentic. It looks weathered. It really is a fantastic job that these guys
and
are
the
doing.
Trains are going to be to scale, because one of the things I hate is when people that use trains in their miniature models is the trains are always way bigger in model than and it looks ridiculous. But he's going to have it 187 scale, which is the scale of the trains. So it's going to be something cool. Again, 11 miles. The display is huge. It's like 130 feet by 20 feet. And hopefully he'll be able to first have it like at the airport,
right.
At the Canal Museum, different places to promote it. But the museum eventually is going to end up in Amador, in one of the 1913 barracks. By the way, remember, his museum is all about 1911, so it's kind of all works out perfectly. Isthmian Construction and Defense Museum, the Cut and Shield. Yeah. Looking forward to that day that we can all hang out there. Of course, there's gonna be places to to buy stuff there. There's going to be
it's going to be
a
extensive.
clubhouse,
Yeah,
diner
absolutely.
there.
It'd be a great place to go and visit, not just walk into a museum and walk out.
And there's going to be some Zonian architects involved as well.
Sure. Should be a good time, and Andrew's been working really hard on this for quite a while. He'll be joining us here in a couple of weeks anyway for a Panama Canal report, and obviously we're gonna be talking about this as well and have some more updates on it. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that, and it was just coincidental that I combed this. What I do is I took Notebook LM and I started dropping a bunch of articles in there and just just throw some stuff out at me that would be some interesting show stuff, and it came up with this one about the Model Railroad Club in Corozal. I'm like, well, holy cow, look at this guy, he's working on something exactly the same, because in essence it's a model railroad, but his is a purpose of displaying a historical piece as opposed to an entertainment piece, but I'm just blown away by the quality of the work they're doing, these guys, because it's not easy to do, especially some of the stuff he's done with trees, that they really have a true depth to them, and the size of the canopy and the branches and everything on it. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to when this thing gets done and see what that comes out to. Did the Atlantic side towns not have? I was wondering about that myself. He's referring to that power change, that 60. The article only mentioned Balboa, but yet it mentioned the Gatun power station. So I'm assuming it probably did, and maybe that might have been, they left it out. The AI didn't pick up that, but it did list communities by name. Los Rios, Ancon, Diablo Heights, and whatever else. So. Not sure, but I'm going to find out for you, Vern, because that is an interesting question, and it is something interesting to ponder there. Tiernan said Dodge family on his mother's side, Owen and Sutherland had 2 Roosevelt. Right on, man. That's one of those things. I know Dave Dalston's family had some as well. That's a really cool, as a Zonian, that's a really, really cool, piece to have to hold on to the zone, because, nobody can take that away from you. Your family was part of building this incredible Panama Canal. So, congrats on you guys for doing it. That's pretty amazing. But anyhow, talking about legacies, okay, the big thing that I found, and to me the most interesting or nostalgic and historical items, was talking about Colonel Goethals. Okay, and in the April of 1954 issue, again, that I was looking through, that was one of the things that they had there was Colonel Goethals was front and center there, and for a reason. On the lower right hand side there, right below Ricky, you can see the Goethals memorial there. It was built and it was completed in 1954. Now, I'm not going to say it was inaugurated in 1954 because, believe it or not, technically it was inaugurated in 1928. Believe it or not. But a series of things and events took place. The Great Depression, World War II, a lot of things took place that prevented the construction of the actual monument itself. And that didn't happen until, as we approach the mid 50s. And so again, in 1954 was the final dedication of it. And as it mentions in the infographic there, 56-foot high marble shaft in Balboa that was unveiled. Interesting fact about this, and maybe the timing helped, but they built it in front of the admin steps, and the reason for that was that initially it was going to be built a little bit further away, but it was going to impede with landing approaches to Albrook Field. And so they decided to move it over a little bit to put it right in front of the admin. And in truth, it worked out well that way because it's so symmetrical with the whole admin, the steps, and then El Prado going all the way to the clubhouse. So it fits perfectly there. I think, if it was an accident, it was a great accident to have because,
the original plan was for those stairs to go straight down. And then when they decided to move the monument back, and that's how they got the lateral ramp.
Sure. Yes, to spread in both directions.
Installed. Yeah, it was a change order.
That's awesome. So the other things they were talking about here, again, because this was all about Goethals, not just the memorial. They talked about him being from West Point. He was an Army engineer back in the day. We had an interesting conversation in our chat group the other day about this, about the governors in the Canal Zone. When did we switch from governor to administrator? And I threw out there that I think it was when the Canal Zone ceased to exist, and there was no need for a governor per se. You now needed someone to administer the canal itself, because the Canal Zone was a whole big entity to support the operation of the canal. But once it turned over to Panama, the canal zone was no longer really needed in that sense because you had the whole country of Panama now to support it and the personnel, and all that. So you didn't need all that big infrastructure. But the other conversation then became, well, at what point did they stop being Army engineers? And turns out it was never. They were, all of the governors were engineers, and in fact, all the way to the end, Governor Parfit, because I even asked about that. So, what about Governor Parfit? Was he, an engineer? And I looked him up, and sure as shit, he was. I mean, he actually was a very accomplished Army engineer, and he received several commendations in Vietnam and stuff, and before coming to run the canal, basically, in the canal zone. So that was part of the gig after Stevens and these guys left, that Roosevelt said, from now on, we're putting an Army guy in there and we're never going to have these issues. And the tradition carried on until the end of the canal zone, that you always had an Army engineer, whether they're retired or not, to head the whole canal zone operation. So that was really, really interesting to read. The Sunday Court of Justice is there. I'm going to show you that here in the next infographic. But Goethals was also kind of his own Judge Wapner. He ran the People's Court in the canal zone back in the day, and it was kind of interesting there, to learn about that. I read
powerful.
about he said, he goes, what I say goes, and the only person that can overrule me is the president of the United States. That's it. I have the final say when it comes to this. But we'll talk about that here in a moment. You see that portrait there on the left of Goethals at the desk there? That's Ellie Rodman Goethals. Not going to cover here now because, like Ricky and I mentioned the other day, we want to start doing some coverage of women in the canal zone, and looking through these canal records again and the canal reviews. A lot of accomplished women. This one here, Ellie Rodman Goethals herself, was very accomplished and had a lot of her own fame in the canal zones that we're going to learn about here. So again, I'm going to try and get a hold of Eileen Bradley and see if she wants to kind of assume that role of being our canal zone women's, whatever we want to call it there. And that would maybe be a great story to start off with, because she has a very compelling story as well. And then the funny one on the bottom left there, the Yellow Peril, that motor car you see there, that was actually Colonel Goethals' motor car to get around the canal zone. And in fact, today when I was reading some more stuff about this, I posted in our chat group as well. I said, I found out that if I was working in the canal construction in 1907, the ideal job to have, the totally kickback job to have, would be that driver there. Okay, Sam Greer is the guy you see right there. He's the motor car driver for Goethals. So Goethals lived. Remember, his house was on Culebra, right up in basically the center of the canal. And every day he would inspect the whole canal operation, right? Again, 48 miles is not that big. And truly the operation, when you take out, the whole Gatun component of it, there wasn't as much digging lengthwise. Deepwise there was, but lengthwise, a lot of it was just a big giant lake. But he would inspect this thing every day. He'd jump in it was gas powered. And this guy would crank that thing up and off we go, but it was painted bright yellow on the roof. So people saw that thing coming from down the road on the tracks. You see that yellow roof coming. You're like, uh-oh, here comes Goethals. Way amigo, because he was doing his daily inspection. But I mean, you talk about somebody hands-on and wanted to make sure this thing was a success. That's how Goethals made it happen. He every single day inspected the canal operation from top to bottom. So it was really interesting to read that. It was kind of fascinating to see how hands-on he was with the canal, and what a way to do it. Jump on the rails and cruise the length of the canal back and forth every single day, man. But
Willie, I got this thing here. Nicknames for lazy canal zone workers. Sensor light. Only works as someone will walk past.
Yes. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, listen, Zonians, we knew how to do this. We were good at this. We could figure out ways to do it, and it would be a cush job, man. That was a badge of honor, I think you could call it, for us here. But
Kit Kat, always taking a break.
There you go. Now you know where that really came from, huh? There you go.
Muffler, always exhausted.
Are you getting those from the Canals on Dictionary?
Yes.
That's funny. That's too funny. And those are Zonian terms because all of those are so fitting to Zonians, man. I mean, they're spot on for sure. But the Caliph of Culebra, or the Judge Wapner of the Canals on back in the day. This is another thing that Goethals did. This is really interesting. Every Sunday, he would hold court. And remember, one of the things we learned, one of the maybe not so nice things about the Canal Zone in the past, and it was the times, the era, and whatnot. But there was a lot of segregation. There was a lot of differentiation and whatnot. We know about the gold and silver rolls and all of those things. But on Sundays, Goethals would hold court. And it didn't matter where you were from. It didn't matter where you worked. It didn't matter what race you were. It didn't matter anything. If you were working in the Canal Zone on that construction job and you had a grievance, on Sundays you could come and see Colonel Goethals. And I mean, if you had a grievance with your foreman, that was whatever your grievance was, he would hear your grievances out.
Good.
And as he said, I had the final word. If you didn't like it, the only person above me is President Roosevelt or Taft, I guess, towards the end there. But, good luck getting a hold of them from Panama. But it's kind of cool that, he didn't let the bureaucracy, override everything. I mean, he part of being a good leader is listening to people, as I always say. And I mean, this is the ultimate listening there when you can say, hey, listen, man, nothing, we're not going to take it in any way, shape, or form. If you got a beef, come and tell us about it, man. See what we can do to make it better, and it shows that even from the top, they wanted to make sure that people, had the best chance to make it good there and make it happen and be successful. So he's also was very much an avid collector of art, and what it was art to preserve the Canal Zone. So this guy, for sure, I can go out on a limb and say that Colonel Goethals would have been a huge fan of Al Sprague, because he was responsible for purchasing a lot of big art pieces that were depicting the Canal Zone and the construction of the canal that hang in Congress and in Panama in the admin building and things of that nature. That a lot of times they paid a lot of money for it, to have somebody commissioned to do these things, but it was important to him that to capture those things. And you remember back in those days, there wasn't a lot of people running around with cameras. You certainly didn't have people with cell phones and cameras taking pictures. So, a lot of what was captured was somebody that had that ability to sit down and real quick grab an easel and sketch something, and then turn around and go home and finish it off or whatever the case was. So art was a big deal to this guy. And so again, I think that he would have been a big fan of Al Sprague, because we've seen what Al Sprague's done to capture, the Canal Zone and the views of the canal and done such a great job of it. And then the last thing that I saw here about Goethals I thought was really cool was, his start. Obviously he went to West Point, but he also worked up in New York in the Port Authority. He was an engineer, right? As he was into building things, tunnels, canals, all that kind of stuff. And so, they honored him there as well, because this guy, you got to remember, the Panama Canal was really, a lot of people will argue, was the coming out party for the United States. This is where the United States had gone now from the country that first, brought the concept of self-governing, right? And voting in elections for presidents and all that stuff. So they'd established that precedent, but it still wasn't a powerhouse country, right? We still, kind of minded our business. We weren't quite that expansionist country yet. And then, of course, the Panama Railroad was a really big deal. But in all honesty, you're talking 50 miles of railroad, right? Panama Canal, a whole different animal here. You're talking about tearing through the continent.
It was the premier project in the world at the time.
The world, 100%. 100%. And so, people like Goethals, these guys were rock stars. Okay, these guys were the Neil Armstrongs of the world. These guys were the Jeff Bezos.
And they used the top technology of the time too.
They did, and they brought the top technology. They innovated the top technologies. So in New York, fast forward when Colonel Goethals passes away, they build another bridge connecting New York and New Jersey, and they name it the Goethals Bridge. Right, so they honored him there as well. And so there's a big bridge that you can cross up in New York that has his name on it as well, because again, this guy was recognized around the world for his accomplishments, namely the Panama Canal. So really interesting to see how that
so he was the Gillespie of the United States.
Yes, he was absolutely a rock star. So Yeah, I just found that interesting. It was some cool, interesting articles in the Panama
Review.
Canal Review for the month of April. Of course, there's a lot more stuff in there, but
1940, 1950, 58?
54, 58,
54.
we had 61. The last one that I wanted to talk about briefly, and let me see if I have it here. I should have it queued up. Let me.
Well, speaking of what happened today in history, today was the start of the Spanish-American War.
Okay, interesting.
I wasn't going to mention because it's war, but now that you brought that up about
but it's historical. I mean, and that
it goes
one
with that
has
what you're
been
talking about. Yeah,
100%. I mean that was it didn't make Panama the choice, but it certainly made building a canal a priority for the United States, right? Because
because of what happened in Cuba. By the time the boats got there, it was too late.
Yes, they had to sail all the way across, and so people had already been talking about this, but it didn't really come to fruition until after they saw that happen. They're like, okay, we got to do something here.
Now,
guys.
we need it now, right?
Blue Ocean military, and take 8 months to get our ships from one place to the other. So yeah, the Spanish-American War was a big deal for the Canal Zone without a doubt. One other one I was going to show you guys here that I thought I had it queued up. I'm not sure where it went, but something else in 1961 that happened in the Canal Zone that was a really big deal. Oh wait, here it is.
My sister was born.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's a big deal. That's certainly a big
beat
deal.
me up ever since.
I know, right? So there was, where is it? I thought I had this one ready to go. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. So in 1961, there was backtrack a little bit. A few years prior to that, the United States and several countries in Latin America formed a pact. And this was a defense pact that basically said, hey, if anything happens, they try and invade Panama and stuff, we all need to help each other out here. Okay. This is, remember, Bay of Pigs had just happened. The communists had now taken over in Cuba. You're in the height of the Cold War. And so this became a big deal. And one of the things that happened, excuse me a second. Sorry, I didn't want to cough in anybody's ears there. But in 1961, there was a military training exercise called Operation Solidarity. It started actually in March, but it was reported in the April issue of the Panama Canal Review. And it involved the United States, Peru, Brazil, and Colombia. And it was a massive, massive military exercise. In fact, and I don't have the other image here. I was looking for it earlier. I couldn't find it, but there's a picture of the early C-130. The C-130 has been an aircraft that's been around for a long time in the U.S. arsenal, right? We all know the C-130, the 4-engine turboprop planes that we saw coming out of Howard all the time. Well, those planes have been around since the late 50s, right? And so the early version of it, there's a picture. It shows Albrook Field, and there must be 24 C-130s on there. I mean, it is just jam-packed with aircraft. And what they did in this operation, this was a simulated airborne invasion of the Canal Zone, right? Because again, you're talking about the Cold War's expanding now, the Soviet Union's now in Cuba and whatnot. And so they needed to get ready for this. And this involved Howard Air Force Base, Albrook Air Force Station, and it involved Rio Hato, which at the time was still, I believe it still was a military installation as well. But it was a really, really big operation. A lot of forces involved, a lot of airborne forces and paratroopers and whatnot. And they talk about how, at the beginning of this operation, the Colombian, the way the operation set up, the Colombians, Brazilians, I think, were the first two that were supposed to parachute in, and set up the area for the 190 or for the 82nd Airborne to then parachute in and support them. So it was just a really cool thing to see. And I started thinking, can you imagine if they had something like that when I was down there? I think it would have been pretty awesome to be up, for example, maybe up in Sosa Hill or something, and watching all these C-130s taking off from Albrook and going on this mission. I thought it was just a really cool thing to see, and kind of an interesting historical component of the Canal Zone. But and I know Ricky's frozen up. I don't know if he's
I'm
there.
frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay,
so,
don't worry. I on my phone I can see what's going on, but on my
right
screen
on.
is black. And we're close to wrapping, so
yeah, we are anyway. So it's not that big that he's gonna reboot here in just a second. But yeah, guys, I think don't forget, guys, check out the Panama Canal Museum collection. They have a lot of great digitized different materials on there. Even now they have the old phone books. You can find all the old maps. Remember, you used to look through the back of the phone book and look at the different maps and see where you lived, where your house was, and all that. You can find all those there as well. Heck, you can look through them and find your friends' phone numbers and stuff. And if you don't remember your phone number, look it up there. You'll see it in there because everybody was listed on there. But they have some great collections of the Panama Canal Review, of the spillway, newspapers and all that. Obviously, all the yearbooks as well. Watch the parachuters jump at Rio Alto. Then I bet it was, man. I bet it absolutely was. I'll tell you, that was the one thing I always remember in the zone. When I was growing up there, Albrook had pretty much wound down. I mean, it was rare to see an aircraft land or take off there. I think they had like a maintenance school there and a couple other things there, but pretty much everything was Howard. And of course, you used to always see those C-141s, right? The Starlifter, I think they called them, always taking off. You could hear those loud, engines and whatnot. And I always remember one time when I was living in Los Rios, I was walking in the evening down by the main road by Gaylord Highway there, and I remember seeing in the evening in the distance an aircraft shooting rockets down into Empire Range, and it was just really cool to see. It was just part of the uniqueness of the zone was so much military presence all around us, right? Because it's fascinating to see an area the size of the Canal Zone when you realize how small it really is to have that much military presence. But it was, that's how strategic the Canal Zone was. So, but anyhow, it was really fun to go through these canal reviews and see all this different Canal Zone history and what we were doing down, in the zone, because it truly was an American enclave, through and through, both militarily and civilian, and some of these things that a lot of us that when we grew up were not things that we were privy to or got to see. It's nice to be able to visit those things in the in these old magazines and stuff. So there you go. Welcome back, Ricky. So, but it's that Canal Zone review, the Panama Canal Review magazine. It's a great publication. Love reading it, and if you want to get caught up on some Canal Zone nostalgia, that's probably one of the better places to find it, is those Panama Canal Review magazines. And like everything else, you can find it on the on that Panama Canal Museum collection. So definitely check them out. Give them some help. I think their membership's $30 a year or something. It's a really small membership to help those guys out. But
yeah, and then at the reunion they do the silent auction, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, they sure do.
Great stuff there.
It is. And even just walking around in there, once you walk in there and you see all that memorabilia and stuff that they collect, and they've got it, a lot of it is displayed really nicely, really well done. And you realize, hey, you know what? These guys are doing a fantastic job. And all it takes to help out is about $30 a year, man, $30-$40 a year. So definitely help them out or send another contribution. Or if you have memorabilia from the zone, reach out to those guys, because they're always looking to collect stuff. And as Ricky pointed out one time, you go to the reunion, you go to the auction, you bid on that stuff, you spend all this money, you win it, you take it home, and a few years later you donate it to the museum, and it goes right back and gets recycled.
Let somebody else enjoy it.
Somebody else bids, and so you're really renting it. It's kind of the honor system. You're going to rent it for a while, then you're going to give it back. But it's the somebody posted today on Facebook somewhere that they went back to Panama for the first time in many years, and one of the things they mentioned, which is very true, is that as disappointed as they were in the Canal Zone, because it really has deteriorated. I mean, Canal Zone is not what it used to be, not even close. Okay, but the flip side of what he gave compliments to is Panama, how Panama has grown, how it has flourished. It's a beautiful country now. It's a wonderful, very iconic city. It's got so much going for it. The beaches, I mean, Coronado now is just a giant, just like a mini city. It's just a big beach resort. And so, there was a big trade-off there. But either way, like he said, he goes, I was glad I went to see it. I enjoyed it. I'm happy for the Panamanian people.
For me, it was seeing Chorrera and Arraiján, how much that's grown. Wow, that blew me away. Incredible. The malls and the highways and the modern
those
city.
Those were towns that we drove through just to go to the beach. you know, and now they're just big metropolises, man, and they're very modern technologies, and it's just it's good for them. I mean, good for Panama. You know, the Canal Zone is what it is. It's gone. We don't live there anymore anyway. So, but if you want to relive it, obviously
we'll bring it to you.
We'll bring it to you. Andrew F. Tomitis is going to do his part to bring it to you. And we do it every Friday. But again, go to the Panama Canal Museum collection. You can check out all of their stuff there as well. So anyhow, Ricky, let's get ourselves out of here. Let's call it a night. It's we've actually done pretty good here considering, but a few glitches, but
2 hours.
I think we went pretty good with it. But end of the month, so we know next week we're going to have Dave Dahlstrom, our Canal Zone historian. His history is going to be about the Panama Canal because, like we talked about, the month of May is going to be all Panama Canal. So I'm excited for that. Don't forget, Lance Wiskowski is going to join us and talk about dredging in the Canal Zone. Jim Duffus is going to talk about working the Gatun locks, which was the one set of locks that did get you from sea level to lake level. We're going to have both the Cohen brothers joining us. One's going to join us. David Cohen's a tugboat captain. He's going to join us. His brother Maurice does supply work for shipping companies in the canal. So he's going to join us as well. And then, of course, Captain F. Tomitis is going to give us our Panama Canal pilot version of things. So jam-packed month of May, guys. All Panama Canal history. Spread the word, guys. Let people know to join us on Friday nights and do this. But I'm excited, Ricky. This is a good show. It was interesting to see.
I had a lot of fun.
Really
this is the fun one.
week,
Mellow, fun. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like, guys, and spread the word. Let's get us to 500.
That's it, guys.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Truly enjoying this.
Salute, everybody.
Salute.
Have a great weekend, guys. Cheers. Okay, Ricky, Colo Suave, man. Great show.
Yeah.
Thanks, Papa. There we go. Look at this timing. Not bad, not bad.